Today we will resolve challenge number 2. That is to find value based on 2 criteria. In our example, based on region and employee. And the second part of the challenge was to find this value based on those 2 criteria, but not the first occurrence, but the nth. So, for example, the 5th occurrence of value that is connected to those 2 values. Let's start with finding the first value, the first cell that is connected to region and employee. And we are starting with solution with legacy Excel. So we cannot use dynamic arrays solutions formulas. In those cases, we can just combine values we are looking for. So in match function, I can combine region, ampersand, and employee. So now I have one value that is combine those 2 values in itself. Okay, and I have to found it in 2 combined columns. So let's start with B2 cell, Control Shift down arrow, Control backspace to go back, ampersand, and C2 Control Shift holding down arrow, Control backspace, and now I have my lookup array. It's just 1 column. F9, I can look at it and I can see we have combined regions and employees names. Control Z, and just like that I can just write exact match, so 0, and I find the position of the first position of region and employee. And in legacy Excel we have to put this formula with Control Shift Enter, so we have a array formula, so those curly brackets will appear. Okay, but in dynamic array Excel it isn't necessary. Okay, now when we have the position, we can just add to the match function her close friend index function. So let's write index function, and we were looking at the cells. So D2 cell, Control Shift holding down arrow, Control backspace. I don't need any dollars here, and the number, row number, is the result from the match function. So just close parentheses, and I have my result. It was row 19, so it's 20 row in the worksheet. Okay, so we have the proper value. Now let's find this value, this cell value, with dynamic array formulas. We can use XLOOKUP function, and in this lookup we will combine those values exactly like in the match function. But so we have our lookup value combined, and now we have to once again combine columns. So B2 Control Shift holding down arrow, Control backspace, ampersand, C2 Control Shift holding down arrow, Control backspace, and we have the same arguments just like in the match function. But in the XLOOKUP function we can already put the return array, so the argument from the index function. So D2 cell, Control Shift holding down arrow, Control backspace, closing parentheses, and we have the same result just like in the previous formula. And we can try to change our values and our conditions, and we're still finding the same values. Now let's find the nth value. How can we do it in the legacy Excel? we have to write proper logical tests. So we want to test region column and employee column. So I will start with region. So I'm looking at the B2 cell, Control Shift holding, down arrow, Control backspace, and we are checking if the column is equal to region F9 cell. And just like that, in dynamic array Excel, I had the spill results, and those results will be also working in legacy Excel. I just am using dynamic array, and so I can see those values here, and we can find the false and true. So true is the place, the row where we have our conditions met, and it's here. So our north is here, and the first north, but we just want two conditions, not just one. So we have to combine two logical tests, and when we combining logical tests from two columns, we have to put them into parentheses because we have to multiply our results, and multiplication is done before comparison, so before logical test, and we need a logical test to be done before our multiplication. So now I want to look at employee column. So C2 cell, Control Shift holding, down arrow, Control backspace, and we compare this to G9 cell. And now we have our results as a column with zeros and ones. The ones are where our conditions are met. So this is the first place, the first row where our condition met. Okay, so we want, with those, instead of these ones, we want the row number. And how can we get it? We can divide row number by our logical test. So we have to add the row function that is looking at, so I will add here A2 cell. So let's say I'm referred to a column, so not the same column as our logical test. Control Shift holding, down arrow, Control backspace, and I have rows in worksheet, and we want to divide it by our results, logical test results. And because we want that our results are combined before division, we have to put them once again in parentheses. And now we have divide by 0 errors and row numbers, but this row number is worksheet row number, not our data row number. So we should subtract from our rows the header row. And our example is just 1. So if I'm sure that this won't change, I can just subtract 1 or other row number. But if the value can change, we can add rows. We should just write row from A1 cell. And once again, subtraction should be before our division, so we put our formula in parentheses, and now we have rows just 1 row before, and then the fifth value is 62, so it's this one. It should be this one, North and Region, North and Marion, and it's 62 row on our example, so it's 63rd row in worksheet. Okay, so now it's correct. So it should be around more than 1,000 pounds. Okay, so we want find this nth value. How can we do it? With aggregate function. So I'm adding aggregate function that's looking for the smallest values, but not the min value, but the smallest nth value. So number 15 in aggregate function. And now I can add ignore error values in options. So we will ignore divide by 0 errors, and we're just finding the row with our previous calculation, and I just have to add the k argument, so it's F6 cell. And because in aggregate function we are using function number 15, it shouldn't have to be put with Control Shift Enter, because those calculation aggregate function and this function number should understand array formulas. So just Control Enter, and we have the row number, and we want to the value, not the row numbers, but the value. So we have to add index function, and this time from D column D2, Control Shift holding, down arrow, Control backspace, and our row number is from previous calculation. So just close parentheses, put our formula here, and we should have proper results. Now we can't find the same value with dynamic array function, and we will be still needing our logical test. So I will just copy them from here, Control C, and I need filter function. I'll be looking for now at the 3 columns from B to D, Control holding, down arrow, Control backspace, and I'm including the results of our logical test. So the region and employee conditions, and just like that we will have results with the rows we choose. So the 5th row here is the value, the row we need, but we don't need the B and C column. It was just that we see that we actually taking region and employee we choose. Okay, so I don't need B and C column, I just need D column. So let's change it like this, and we have just the values, the sales, and we just need the 5th in our example result. So we can just add index function. We have our array, and the row number is in F6 cell, and just like this we have the same results. So let's change it to 3, the same results. Let's change region, the same results, and let's change the employee, and just like that we find the first occurrence of the value. So let's make it first one, and South and Marion, and we have the same results with our more complicated formula that allows us to choose the occurrence of the values we are looking for.